What's going on, Dolphins fans? We are nearing Sunday, and that could potentially mean the return of Jalen Ramsey. So on this edition of Dolphins Today, you got to let me know in the comments before we even get going. Do you think Jalen Ramsey is playing on Sunday? Type Y for yes, N for no. We're going to talk all about it on Dolphins Today, as well as some Dolphins trade rumors. That's coming up next on Dolphins Today. Dolphins Today is presented by Manscaped, proud sponsor of today's episode. All you got to do is go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins, gets you 20% off and free shipping. Tell you more about some of their awesome products coming up a little bit later on in the show. But first, we got to get to an exciting tweet that has me and probably you just wondering, trying to look into that crystal ball of when perhaps Jalen Ramsey makes that debut for the Aqua and Orange. He was on the sideline Sunday Night Football, and according to Mike McDaniel, he'll be practicing with the first-team defense this week. Earlier from Omar Kelly tweeted this out yesterday. Looks like Dolphins quarterback Jalen Ramsey will be getting a tryout to play this Sunday against the New England Patriots. So, pretty exciting news, no doubt about it. We've been talking for a couple of weeks now, ever since Jalen Ramsey returned to practice, is when will he be ready to step foot on the playing field for the Miami Dolphins. We know all about the track record. The resume is impressive as you look there, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, and oh yeah, he's got some Super Bowl experience as well, winning it all in 2022 with the Rams. 88 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 18 pass breakups in 2022 with the Rams. The guy is an absolute dog, as they say, but he did have knee surgery in the offseason in July. He's practicing with the first-team defense. Here's a little bit more from Mike McDaniel, who talked about the way Jalen Ramsey attacked the rehab process and how all in he's been with the Dolphins, saying, quote, "I've never been around a guy that had this long of a rehab that hasn't missed team meetings or hasn't missed practices." So even though Jalen Ramsey was obviously going to be out for a while, with the start of the season, he was still at every meeting. He was still cheering on his teammates. And a lot of different coaches have talked how positive of an impact he's had on this Dolphins team, even before ever even playing a down for the Dolphins. So that's really exciting. And just to keep you updated on where we are with everything right now, because again, we're trending closer and closer to when Jalen Ramsey will play for the Dolphins. He was also named the Scout Team Player of the Week last week, so that's pretty exciting, huh? And how about it? The 6-time Pro Bowler practicing with the Scout Team last week was the Scout Team Player of the Week. He'll be taking reps with the first-team defense this week. And again, Mike McDaniel talked a little bit about this, but it's not like you just flip a switch and you're in game speed. That is a progression and a build-up. So with all the time off he's had because of the injury, it's not going to happen overnight, but we are getting closer and closer, and that debut could be this Sunday against the Patriots. And one last Jalen Ramsey note, it's his birthday. How about that? It's like he knew we were going to be talking all about him today on Dolphins Today. So, number 5, happy birthday from all of us here at Dolphins Today. If you want to wish Jalen Ramsey a happy birthday, do so now in the comments. Spam it, HBD. Don't have to get elaborate with all the emojis or anything, but if you want to, feel free. HBD will do it. Happy birthday, Jalen Ramsey. Things are looking up. He's getting closer and closer to making that Dolphins debut. Now, coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to dive into some juicy Dolphins trade rumors. But first, I got to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor, that is Manscaped. And gentlemen, just listen up for a second because I have an urgent message for you. Yes, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, and that's the brand that took your balls to space and is now launching them into the Ultra Sphere. Introducing the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, featuring a new cutting-edge design and next-generation dual skin-safe blade heads for a different type of shave. It's pretty much a spaceship to take, your boys downstairs to the next level. So join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code Dolphins. High tech for low prices. That's Manscaped. And you guys know we always make it easy on you. So we'll put that link in the description. It can be scary going down there with trimmers. It doesn't have to be. Manscaped is the brand for you. It is elite. And like I said, 9 million men already trust the Manscaped brand. You should too. Manscaped.com, promo code Dolphins, 20% off plus free shipping. Do it now. Link in the description. All right. As we get closer and closer to the NFL trade deadline, it all of a sudden becomes the conversation for just about every team. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Who's on the block? Who's not? That type of thing. And I think it's safe to say, yes, the Dolphins at 5-2, first place in the AFC East. You could consider them at the top of the list of potential buyers. So, with that also said, though, you also wonder who could be on the Dolphins trading block. It's kind of a yin and yang. Follow me here. Perhaps on the trading block for the Miami Dolphins, an ESPN article listing Emmanuel Ogbah as a potential trade piece for the Dolphins to use because he's kind of been played out of that defensive end position. The ESPN article lists Emmanuel Ogbah as a possible trade candidate. He just signed a 4-year, $65 million extension last year, so moving him could become a little bit complex. But why do I say he could be someone that could be moved? Well, we've seen his production decline this year, and really, frankly, without being disrespectful, he's been outplayed by everybody else at his position group. Take a look there. We know what Bradley Chubb brings to the table. And yes, Jalen Phillips has missed some time due to injury, but when he's played, he's been a valuable asset to the defense. And how about the emergence of Andrew Van Ginkel? We talked quite a bit about him. He had a great game against the Buffalo Bills. He was the only bright spot for that matter and has been one of the best guys in the lineup. In fact, this was before Sunday's game against the Eagles, but Pro Football Focus had him graded out as one of the best edge rushers in the National Football League, 8th among all edge defenders with that 90 PFF grade. So again, things are constantly changing on the Miami Dolphins defense, and when you think about guys that potentially don't necessarily have as big of a role, then you look right at Emmanuel Ogbah and that ESPN article also linking him as a potential trade candidate. So I want you to be the GM for a second. Should the Dolphins trade Emmanuel Ogbah? He had a lot of production in the last 2 years before this one, before his production limited, but let me know in the comments. Type T for trade or type K for keep. You be the GM on this one. Now, a couple of people the Dolphins should be trading for. I have my eye on Josey Jewell, the linebacker for the Denver Broncos, and that's because a CBS Sports article by Cody Benjamin proposed that trade that the Dolphins could make with the Denver Broncos. These two have been trade partners in years past. Obviously, Bradley Chubb comes to mind here. So the CBS article has this as the trade proposal. Dolphins would get Josey Jewell and send their 2024 fifth-round pick to the Denver Broncos, who we know are in a state of selling. The Broncos were terrible. Just think back to that matchup in which the Dolphins hung 70 on them. Not great. So maybe it is time for Denver to have a fire sale, and if they do, Jewell could be one of those guys that they move. 6'2", 236, played at Iowa, and really hasn't been a guy that has had a dominant career per se, but a productive one nonetheless. He's played in 49 games with the Broncos, started in 30 of them, 204 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and he's in the midst of the second year of a 2-year deal, so meaning it's an expiring contract, so easier to make the move there. And it's at a position group where the Dolphins haven't necessarily seen a lot of different pieces move in and out. It's always been David Long and Jerome Baker at those two inside linebacker positions, who both have been relatively productive. You take a look at the numbers there, 51 tackles for David Long Jr., 45 for Jerome Baker. And Jerome Baker had that interception, pick six variety of that matter, on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. They haven't been too active with the sacks, but again, the stats don't always tell the whole story. So we look a little bit further. How about some Pro Football Focus data for you? And before Sunday night's game against the Eagles, David Long Jr., 90.9. Now, that's a run defense grade, but one of the best linebackers at stopping the run. That was second among all inside linebackers. So a great job stuffing the run David Long Jr. has done all season long. So when you look at the depth chart, it's David Long, it's Jerome Baker. Duke Riley hasn't really played a lot, and I don't expect him to. And so because of that, the conversation does open itself up to adding a piece like Josey Jewell. And whether or not the Dolphins are active at the trade deadline remains to be seen, but Josey Jewell, a guy you could keep your eye on. Now, I've seen the comments. I've read them. They're on the video. They're on all the tweets. They're all over, which I love. I love Dolphins fans getting into it. But it feels like Dolphins fans have a particular position group that they want the team to trade for. So this is your time to be the general manager. Sound off in the comments. What position group should the Dolphins trade for? Let me know in the comments below. What I've gathered, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think I am. I've gathered this. Dolphins fans seem to really want an offensive lineman or a boost to the offensive line. And why not? The offensive line has been ridden by injuries. In fact, more bad news, but also kind of expected news based on what we talked about yesterday is that, in fact, Isaiah Wynn heading to injured reserve, the latest Dolphins offensive lineman to go to IR. It's happened time and time again this season. The Dolphins offensive line as a group kind of been snake bit by the injury bug. Teron Armstead's on IR. Isaiah Wynn joins him on IR. Connor Williams has battled injuries and missed the last 2 games. You get the idea. That entire left side, including the center, has just been eaten up by the injury bug. So I know people want to trade for an offensive lineman. Add some depth to the offensive line, Jake. That's what we need. So here are 2 potential offensive linemen that might be on their respective teams' trading blocks. Patriots offensive tackle Trent Brown, who played at Florida, and he's a veteran. He's been around for a while. I'm sure you've seen him. He's played for a couple of different teams. 9th season, but he becomes a free agent after 2023, so another expiring deal. Another one to keep your eye on for the Los Angeles Rams is Joe Noteboom, played at TCU, 3rd-round pick back in 2018. But he has a little bit longer on his deal, so making the trade might be a little bit more complex. But what's interesting to note about Noteboom is he was injured earlier in the season, but when he returned to the lineup, he was healthy enough to play, but did not find the field in the Rams game on Sunday. So if you're not going to be playing for the Rams, potentially you could help out another team like the Dolphins. But as I always am, I got to be frank with you guys. Always 100% honest on here. It's basically 100% transparency, right? What you see is what you get. I really don't see it happening. There's just not a lot of deals that can be made for offensive linemen in the midpoint of the season. Not a lot of options, and then you run the risk of overpaying for something you don't need. I'd be interested to see what Chris Grier and the Dolphins front office do in the offseason to address some of the offensive line depth issues, because at the very top, in a perfect world, everybody stays healthy. An offensive line is plenty good, but we know it's the National Football League, and that doesn't always happen. However, in the games the Dolphins have won this year, and the 5 wins, the Dolphins' offensive line has been awesome. They've been one of the best in the league. And then, of course, in the 2 games they've lost, they've allowed 4 sacks in both of those games, and they haven't been really good. So I got to be honest with you, I just don't really see the Dolphins making a trade. Maybe I'll be wrong, and you know what? We've got a week till the deadline, so maybe they will, in fact, prove me wrong. We will see. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Dolphins Today, especially the members of our Aqua Club. Couldn't do it without you guys. You guys are the best. We added a couple of names to the Aqua Club in our Sunday night football watch party. Although it didn't go the way we wanted to, we're always happy to join or have new members join the Aqua Club. So shout out to Chad Jones, Lord Buddy Bear, David Breecount, Mystical, Robert Fritz, and our newest member, Gerald Stokes. Got to know who's going to be next. And your next chance to join the Aqua Club will be when we have our live show on Wednesday. So be sure to join us for that. And of course, you know our live watch parties happening for every single Dolphins game. Make sure you join us for the next one. We'll do a little tailgate special party at noon, followed by the game at 1. Always a good time. Dolphins taking on the Patriots. We'll have a preview of that game later on in the week. And, of course, our live show on Wednesday, your next chance to join the Aqua Club. So shout out producer Jack. Couldn't do it without him. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today. See you.